Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show with local celebrity hosts Steve O and Rene. Sit back each week while Steve O and Rene educate you with live in-studio experts, such as lawyers, doctors, home improvement, and financial experts in their field. Call in and have your questions answered each week at 888-565-1470. Now, here is Steve O and Rene with today's expert in their field.
Good afternoon. Again, it's Steve O minus Rene. Rene is working on our morning show. We have a morning show from 7 to 10 every morning, and it takes us about 4 hours to put that show together. Today, I am so excited about today's show. We have one of our advertisers on our morning show that we met, and I'm going to tell you something. If you've ever been in an automobile accident, you are going to find out some things today. I never knew this existed, but we have, and I'm allowed to say this, he's not, we have the top PI attorneys, personal injury attorney, here in studio today, but we're going to talk about what the insurance companies don't want you to know, and I'd like to welcome senior partner of Findler Findler, Brett Findler.
Thank you so much, Steve O. Happy to be here.
Brett, this is like so cool. It's like I could not wait to get you on Ask the Experts. When you started explaining to me about diminished value or loss of use, I went, what are you talking about? And you started explaining it. We're going to tell people today, I guess the big secret the insurance companies don't want you to know when you're in an automobile accident.
It truly is. And one of the things that we're not going to talk about today is bodily injury. In other words, this topic of diminished value and loss of use is so exciting to us and to the consumer, and the insurance companies just hate us. So let's start off with a scenario. You go out to dinner, you give the valet your car, you come back, and to your shock and dismay, your car has been damaged. Valet gives you a form to fill out, you contact the insurance company, your car is fixed. Looks great. You're happy to have it back. 6 months later, it's time for you to trade in your vehicle. You go to your dealer, and unfortunately, he tells you your BMW is worth $6,000 less than what you thought it was worth and what Blue Book and Kelly does.
Because of the accident.
Absolutely. And you say, what? Why? And they say, well, it was in an accident. And you say, I understand that, but it's been fixed. It looks perfect. Doesn't make a difference. That's what diminished value is. In other words, that vehicle now is damaged goods in the eyes of the consumer.
Even though it doesn't look like it.
Even though it doesn't look like it, because of these reporting agencies. You've got Carfax, CarChecks, all of these agencies get wind of this accident because in the state of Florida, body shops legally have to report the damage to these reporting agencies. So you're a consumer. You walk into a dealership for a used car. You have BMW 1, BMW 2, same color, equal mileage. Everything's the same. Price is the same. But you find out that BMW 1 had $5,000 worth of damage 3 years ago. Are you going to pay the same for that car as you would? I wouldn't either. And that's what diminished value is. Now, in Florida, there are no statutes which address diminished value, and therein lies the big secret. By statute, I mean there's no Florida statute that you can go to and direct an insurance company and say, see, that's where it says I'm entitled to this money. So insurance companies in Florida will deny the existence of diminished value. They'll say, your car was satisfactorily repaired, you accepted the vehicle, and now your car is back to its pre-accident value. Absolutely 100% not true. The problem is people don't know how to go about fighting the insurance company, because if they tell you you're legally not entitled to it, then what do? Well, most times people have an attorney for their injuries. And here's the part that is really almost comical. I've been practicing law for 32 years. I work with some of the greatest attorneys in Palm Beach County, Broward County, Dade County, some of the biggest high-powered personal injury firms, and none of them knew about the existence of diminished value
How'd you
or
find out
loss of
then?
use. Found out pure quirk. I had a friend who lived in Georgia, had an accident, wasn't injured, and he was getting, for lack of better terms, jerked around on the property damage on his car. In other words, he didn't think that his car was repaired properly. So in the course of discussing with him what to do, he innocently said, after I received my diminished value check from Allstate, that's when I started, and I stopped and I said, what do you mean a diminished value check? And he says, no, a diminished value check. I said, from Allstate? And he says, yeah. I said, I've never heard of that. Are you sure you received? He says, yeah, I got a $1,200 check. So after I spoke with him, I couldn't wait to start to research, and nowhere could I find anything relating to any law in Florida saying there is an entitlement to diminished value. Now I'm figuring I'm the idiot. I've been doing this for 32 years. Why don't I know about diminished value? And what happened was I said, okay, let me check out the laws in Georgia. And lo and behold, I found out that Georgia has a state statute that obligates the at-fault party's insurance company to at least estimate what that diminished or loss of value would be and send it to the party. So I said, well, if it's good in Georgia, why don't we have something like that in Florida? So then I went, lawyers learn basically by looking at case law. That's what we do. Case law determines what the law may be given a certain situation. So if a lawyer doesn't know the specific answer to a specific question, you research it. In the old days, you had to go to the library and spend hours. Now, with computerization, it's quick and easy. And I found out why nobody knows about diminished value, because it's only by virtue of case law, meaning there was a case in Florida, and it's called, for those of you who like to look it up, it's called Siegel versus Progressive Insurance. And in that case, what's really interesting is the claimant, Siegel, lost. He was claiming diminished value. It went up to the Supreme Court of Florida.
Was he an attorney?
No, he was an that was the name of the person, Siegel,
Right.
who was represented by a law firm, and his car was damaged in an accident.
What kind of car was it?
He had a Lexus, I believe,
Okay.
and he was claiming diminished value. And lo and behold, I'm reading this, and he lost. So I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. This is supposed to be the seminal case, and here is where even attorneys who have a modicum of understanding of this say there's no diminished value by case law here in Florida because the Supreme Court says you're not entitled to it. They're right. The only problem was, in that case, the person was at fault for the accident, and he was suing his own insurance company, which was Progressive, saying that his contract for insurance not only obligated them to fix his car because he had contracted for that policy, but also for the loss of value. So in the body of this 13-page decision, there's a paragraph. And in that paragraph, it says that he would be entitled to go after the at-fault party's insurance company for the loss of value, but you can't go after your own insurance company because it's first party. And that was
And
the
his
light.
lawyers didn't know that.
This
Because it's so new.
It's new. You have to understand, Steve-O, that when you're talking about researching cases, how do we research? Well, we research based upon cases that were tried in front of a jury. Someone didn't agree with the result, and they then file an appeal, and it goes to an appellate court. And if the appellate court somehow rules in a way that's not to their favor, you can apply to the Supreme Court. There's a process involved. But you don't get anywhere near that when you're dealing with damages under $5,000, $2,000, $1,000. So these diminished value cases, who's going to take this case on appeal? The cost of filing the appeal is more than what the diminished value. Now, in luxury vehicles, we'll get into this later, the diminished value could be $10,000, $20,000. But the point is, there's nowhere to look to piece this together. So for about a year and a half, I researched every possible thing I could, and I started to piece everything together to come up with a game plan that would allow us to go ahead and recover these monies on behalf of our clients from the at-fault parties, insurance companies. Now, at first, they told me to pound salt because they said, okay, you're claiming that your client's diminished value is $3,000. We'll offer you $200. That was after a month of there is no diminished value, but of course I sent them the appropriate case law.
And they're going to start off low anyway.
Right, but then they said $200, and I said, that fine, I'm going to file suit. And they said, go ahead, file suit, because they knew I was never going to file suit because economically it's not feasible for us to file suit on cases where what we're looking for is $2,000. But I determined that our game plan, our business model was volume on this. So what I had to do is prove my point that, yes, we will file a lawsuit for $1,200, $1,500, $2,000, and get them to understand when they see Findler and Findler, we're going to file a lawsuit. So after we went through 6 months of doing the dance with every insurance company where they tried to see if we would actually file a lawsuit. Now we're at the point where they know that we mean business. And
what a great position to be in.
Well, and I'm going to tell you something. This isn't the type of practice that you retire on financially, okay? But 32 years of practicing law, going against insurance companies, whether it's in workers' comp we handle, personal injury we handle, I can tell you that the frustration level of being in a position of an unfair fight with the insurance companies on so many levels, it gets to the point where you literally want to pull your hair out. So let me give you an example. If the person's injured in an automobile accident, but it's a non-surgical injury, and the person who caused the accident only has $10,000 in coverage, and the insurance company offers $3,000, $4,000, and you say the case is clearly worth $8,000. They know there's nothing that I can do to take that case to court, because if I do, the cost of doing that is going to eat up the extra monies that we get. And then again, there's no guarantees with the jury. But even if I knew going in that we would get additional monies, it's like putting on a stage production. It costs money to go to court. So insurance companies had the upper hand in every one of those cases. Well, now it's the opposite.
Especially to see Findler and Findler.
I am enjoying life because in this situation, tables are turning, and I'll tell you why. Because when we do a demand, and let's say it's for $3,000, $4,000, when the insurance companies fight, which they don't do that with us much anymore, but let's assume it's a new insurance company that's in town. What they are in the same position we were in these personal injury cases where the injuries are insignificant, because the cost of them defending the claim is usually going to cost them more than what the claim is worth, because their attorneys get paid by the hour,
right.
Win, lose, or draw. So if my diminished value claim is $3,000 and they don't want to pay me, and I file suit, their attorney is going to be charging them $300 an hour. So in 10 hours, it's $3,000, and you still have to pay my client. So it's a wonderful feeling. Like I said,
no litigation.
Virtually no litigation. And, well, we had to pay our dues with that. And the other thing, which is really the moniker of how we're able to do this, is the cost. How we do this is we need an expert who will determine what the diminished value is. I'm not in a position to
Right.
say that. And one of the biggest mistakes people do if they've done some research on diminished value is they'll go to their local dealer, and the dealer will say, yeah, I think your car's worth about $3,000 less. They'll get a letter for him. That letter is worthless as you know what.
Right.
Okay? So the way we've designed this is I went across the country, and I checked out numerous adjusters, independent automobile insurance adjusters, because in half the states, it's covered under the statute, meaning insurance companies have to at least make an attempt to reimburse the loss of value. So they actually employ the
Don't
same...
tell me they have their own adjusters.
Well, they go to the same independent adjusters that I've chosen
Okay.
because I want real numbers. I live my life and I practice under the same philosophy. It is what it is. I don't want it to be more, and I certainly am not going to take less. It is what it is. So I want real numbers by real people. So what I did was I chose the top 5 or 6 insurance licensed independent adjusters who handle diminished value across the United States. So when I get an adjuster who doesn't know what we do and how well we're prepared, and they say, well, who is this guy you're using?
Right.
I go, really? It's the same person your insurance company is using and states that it's mandatory for diminished value. And these independent adjusters, if you were to go to them, because if you go on the web, you're going to see a lot of websites for diminished value by these independent adjusters. And what they'll do is they will provide you with a report, and you're going to pay between $350 to $500 for that report. And they're going to give you some tips about how to handle the conversation with the insurance company. And you're on your own. So what happens is, in life, in order to get things done, you need ammunition and a delivery mechanism. So a bullet is your ammunition, but if you want to commit a crime and show up at a bank and you're holding a bullet and there's no delivery mechanism, the gun, no one's scared of you. What the hell's the bullet? Okay. You chamber the bullet in the gun, now you got people's attention. Well, in those situations, all they have is the bullet, which is the report. These insurance companies know that if you don't have an attorney who understands the law, who's going to fire that bullet at them, you're nowhere. So we are the delivery mechanism. We are
Well, they
the
know
gun.
you know what you're doing, too.
Well, they
That
do.
helps, too.
Well, they certainly know now. I mean, at
They can't
first,
pull the wool over your eyes.
even though we provided them with all of the proper documentation. I mean, Steve, when we started this, what I did was I instructed my law firm, after I educated them about diminished value, I said, I want everyone here to spend the next week writing down questions that you would think an insurance company would pose to us as to why we're not entitled to diminished value, our clients, because I needed to know how to address that. So someone in my office had a genius question. The genius question was, well, what if someone comes to us and tells us they were involved in an accident, they show us that the car had $5,000 worth of damage, and now they want to claim diminished value, but they haven't sold the car yet, or they haven't traded it in. So how could you claim a loss of value if you haven't actually had it occur yet? That's a great question. So that was about halfway into this process, and I was, to say depressed was...
Even though knowing you are going to sell it down the road.
But correct, but again, there was nowhere to look. There is nowhere to look to piece this together. I had to piece this puzzle together. So what I found was a Department of Insurance advisory opinion at 2 o'clock in the morning I was researching, and ask me how I even got to this point. I don't even know. In fact, to this day, I don't think I can find it again because I didn't know how I got there. But this was a Department of Insurance advisory opinion to insurance companies, because the Department of Insurance governs insurance companies. They're the regulatory agency. And in there, it defined diminished value as a tort. T-O-R-T. A tort is a damage. So if you're involved in an accident and you suffer an injury, that's a tort. If your car is stolen and you lose objects in there, that's a damage. That's a tort. So it defined it as a tort. And I said, wait a minute. If it's a tort, that means there's a statute of limitations. Just like in a personal injury case, it's 4 years. So if you get injured today, you got 4 years from the date of the accident to either have that case settled, or you better file a lawsuit before then, or it ends. So I said to myself, well, if the Department of Insurance calls diminished value a tort, then I'm under a statute of limitations. So I came up with the argument of, well, how could you force my client to wait to sell the car? What if he doesn't want to sell it for 5 years? He'd lose his obligation. So that was the answer to that. Now, of course, the insurance company's like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this. And I said, fine. Battled it out, and we won because it all makes sense. It's a tort. So it is just fascinating. And getting back to how we're able to do this. So what I told these adjusters is I said, look, work with me. I am not doing this on a small case-by-case basis. I'm going to do this big time because I'm at the point in my career where I've been there, done that, and I want to do something that I truly enjoy. And don't get me wrong, we still handle workers' comp, but I've got other lawyers in the firm doing those things. So I told them the only way I can help clients out who don't have luxury vehicles is you need to be able to get me that report for $100. $100.
Okay, that's fair enough.
But I'm going to send you a ton of volume. So you're going to make it up. And I found 6 guys across the country who said, you know what? You sound motivated. We're going to work with you. So what that does now is it allows us to virtually help anyone who has a loss of value of $1,000 or more.
How about New York, though? We have a lot of listeners.
New York is another state where diminished value is not statutory, which means that it's the same thing. Now,
same as Florida.
Right, same as Florida. California, the same. Now, and we handle New York and California as well. But the interesting thing is, when we say statutory, here's the problem for states that have a statute that obligates. If the state is, if the insurance company is operating in a state where they have to address diminished value, the amount that they're going to pay is always going to be less than what the real diminished value is. The problem is, from a representation point of view, it's impossible to represent.
Ties your hands, doesn't it?
Well, it ties your hands because our fee, how do we get paid? We get paid based upon a 100% contingency fee, meaning if I can't get a diminished value recovery for you, you owe me nothing.
Right.
Okay? Well, knock on wood, to this day, haven't had one happen. Why? Number one, we know what we're doing. But we also will only take a case if all the elements are there. What are the elements? I need to have an at-fault party, a clear at-fault party. I need to have a car that's relatively new with modicum of miles on it. I need to have coverage on the other side, and I need to have damage to the vehicle. Once I've got that, I know I'm going to make a diminished value recovery. How much? I can't tell you until we send it out.
Exactly.
But we pay the $100.
Depends kind of car, too.
Absolutely. We pay the $100. We don't ask our clients for a penny. We will pay the $100 and recoup that at the end. If for whatever reason we can't make that recovery, then we eat.
You eat it.
We eat it along with our time, but that doesn't happen. So getting back to states where they have diminished value, if an attorney were ever to get involved, your fee would be not from $1. It would be if the insurance company offered $2,000 and you're saying it's $3,000. Well, how can you charge the person a fee on the first $2,000?
Right.
So
Because they get that on their own.
Right. So it's impossible. And the other thing is, when people receive these checks in those states, they cash them immediately.
Oh, I'm sure.
So that ends that entitlement. So
We've only got a couple more. I'm telling you, time goes by so fast. First of all, give everybody your phone number.
phone number 561 area code 640-3555, and you can reach us anytime.
And your website. Your website goes live tonight.
Our website, we're so excited. It took us a long time, but it's absolutely wonderful. Our website is www.getdv, that's for diminished value.com. So getdv4me.com. Now, 4 is numeral 4. So getdv numeral 4 for me.com. Actually, I'm making this a lot more difficult than what it is. It's getdv4me.com. And you go to that website, it'll answer all of your questions, and you can put in your information, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. How long do these cases take for us to get it resolved? 45 days to 60 days from the date we get all of the material from the body shop. This is boom, boom, boom.
It's amazing what you've discovered.
Thank you.
And basically, you're the only one really out there who knows what you're doing.
Well,
You have done all the work on this, and the good thing is that insurance companies know you now.
yeah, we're very blessed, and to be honest with you, we get so much work from referring law firms that they handle the bodily injury portion, but they don't handle this because they either didn't know it exists or it's just not what they know how to do. So,
Well, we're going to go to break right now. Brett, thank you so much.
My pleasure. It was
Name
a
of
pleasure,
the firm is
Steve-O.
Findler and Findler. And I'm telling you that if you've been in an automobile accident, especially a nicer, older vehicle,
newer
newer vehicle, this is something that you've got to look into. And again, we appreciate you.
Thank
We're
you
going to
so
go to
much.
break. When we come back, we've got Gil Belu of Belu and Belu. We'll be right back.
At the law firm of Belu and Belu, we can help you if you are facing foreclosure. Don't lose your home